G'day guys, my name is CJ. Happy New Year. Hope you guys have stayed safe. Now, what do you think of when you hear the letters GTR? I see this, or this, or this. And definitely not this. But that could change, because this is the 47mm stainless steel Amazfit GTR by Huami, a budget smartwatch made by a branch company of the already very well-known Xiaomi brand. Heard of them? And so today, we're going to see if this watch is worth your time. Get it? Time? Because it's a watch? Yeah? No? Let's get started. So Amazfit have only recently launched officially in Australia in the last couple of months, and so far there's only a few products with official support. So as a result, us poor Aussies only get access to a couple of older models for now and not the brand spanking 2 or 2E versions that we see in other markets. So to kickstart their launch, they were kind enough to send me both their GTS and their GTR models. So I'm looking at the GTR right now, but subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the GTS video when it's released too. But in any case, let's first unbox this guy. And so there's really not much to the unboxing experience with only the bare essentials in it. You've got the watch itself, which first impressions gives off a nice air of quality. You got some paperwork, which we'll throw away, and a magnetic charging cable and adapter that fortunately works across the board with other Amazfit watches too. That's awesome. But with the watch unboxed, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Now at their most basic level, smartwatches really only need to do a couple of things well. Now other than maintaining a connection with your smartphone, it should be able to deliver notifications, do some fitness tracking, and of course, tell the time reliably, and just generally be unobtrusive with the whole experience. I mean, there's nothing worse than a piece of tech that gets in the way. But it has to nail these basics to even be considered. Then they have to add value to make them stand out of the pack, either through hardware features, using fancy build materials, or adding pulse oximeters to measure oxygen saturations, or have a massive bank of exclusive software features, let's say with an ecosystem of apps, kind of like you see with Wear OS and Apple Watch. Now this results in the prices you often see some of these mainstream smartwatches being sold for. So when you look at the Amazfit GTR and the price of around $240, well, you know where it sits. So yes, it's a basic smartwatch, but it doesn't promise the world and it really delivers in spades for what it does, with a few extra perks for your money too. So let's first talk about the design. Externally and from a build quality perspective, it looks as premium as any great smartwatch out there. It's got a stainless steel case, Gorilla Glass 3 on the top, and it's all stuck together with super tight tolerances. The buttons on the side are nice and tactile as well, and the model I've got weighs in at 48 grams, which is then combined with an easily swappable 22mm hybrid leather and silicone strap, which ultimately makes it really comfortable to wear for really long periods of time. And this whole package doesn't look so chunky as to scream smartwatch either, so you could wear this as an accompaniment to your outfit, whether it be for work, casual settings, or even in fancier, more formal events. It honestly looks great in all scenarios. Then on the top, it rocks a 1.39-inch AMOLED display, which looks really nice and sharp. It's got a resolution of 454 by 454 with a pretty decent pixel density of 326, and which by Apple standards is considered a Retina display, so that's pretty great. And honestly, it looks as good as any OLED smartwatch screen out there, with really great viewing angles and color reproduction. And then this includes the Galaxy and Apple Watches too, which for a budget smartwatch is awesome. Plus, it also comes packed with smartwatch basics like Bluetooth 5.0, a GPS that's a little bit hit and miss, a heart rate sensor that's pretty accurate, and 5 atmospheres of water resistance too, so you can take it for a swim if you want. Now, it doesn't come with a pulse oximeter or NFC, but as I said before, this watch is a generation old, so I'm willing to overlook it for this particular reason. And because it's a generation old, performance is as you'd expect. I mean, it'll do everything you expect a basic smartwatch to do, but that's it. No frills, no more, no less. The GTR doesn't use a proper OS, so outside of its basic features and connectivity, that's pretty much it. And most importantly for a lot of people, there's no app store, which is going to be a bit of a turn-off for some. So if you like Spotify or Strava, take note of that and you'll have to look elsewhere. Connection-wise, the watch makes it easy enough to get started with a QR code and the Z app. And this app is going to be where all the essential functions from within the watch is tweaked, from customizing what notification it shows to setting different alarms and alerts, and of course, downloading different watch faces for customization. It's all done through this app. And speaking of watch face customization, the list is updated all the time. And I think up until now, I've counted almost over 100 different watch faces to choose from. So that's pretty great. But as a bit of a heads up, it does seem to take an unusually long amount of time to transfer the watch face onto the app and then set it up. So that puts a slight downer on the experience, especially when each watch face is only a couple of 100 kilobytes in size. But when it finishes syncing, it vibrates, and it's also here that you'll find that the vibration motor on the watch is a bit rattly and loud, as you'd probably expect from a cheap smartwatch. But on the watch itself, swiping around the UI, you'll notice that it's a little bit janky, a little laggy, but for me it was never unusable and it never stopped working, which is, I guess, a pretty essential thing. Now, it definitely doesn't run at a smooth 60 frames per second, and it's quite obvious that the processor has been tuned more for power efficiency rather than performance. But the positives is that it never gets in the way of the watch performing its functions. And that's thanks to how basic the overall software experience is. So in terms of overall usage, it's going to be fine. Now, swiping on the main screen then shows different information depending on which direction you swipe. And it's also here that you'll appreciate what I mean about software jank. Sideways swipe shows cards about fitness, step count, and heart rate. Swiping down gives you some basic controls like a torch, brightness, and do not disturb. And swiping up shows the menu with very basic options such as workout, heart rate, alarms, music control, etc, etc. And as mentioned before, there's no app store, so again, look elsewhere if that's important to you. And it also doesn't have a speaker or a microphone, so you're not going to be answering calls or, I guess, texting people or listening to music on it either. But as we mentioned before, in its most basic functions, the GTR absolutely nails it. It's a really reliable step counter. I do a lot of walking and even sometimes running as part of my work, and it counts it really accurately. Plus, it's a robust workout tracker too, with up to 12 sport modes, which range from open swimming to skiing. I'm not going to do that, but for most people, it'll cover the majority of the activities that you'll expect to do. And then you've got the heart rate sensor, which is quite reliable. And thanks to its decent battery life, you could realistically wear it to bed regularly to track your sleep too. And when you compare it to the Apple Watch, the data and the accuracy it tracks is pretty comparable too, which is great. Now, speaking of battery life, the watch has a 410 mAh battery, and combined with its super basic OS and optimized CPU, the GTR lasts way longer compared to mainstream watches. Amazfit advertised 24 days of longevity with typical and optimal use. Yeah, 24 days, 2-4. And in my use case, without modifying any default settings, I was seeing battery drain that would reasonably get close to this figure, losing maybe 3 to 4% of battery life at best per day. Now, of course, this will depend largely on what you do, and I do reckon it'll fall short by just a couple of days than advertised, but still, on the whole, its battery life is pretty incredible. Now, of course, if you start utilizing more of its other smart features that you see on other watches, like an always-on display, or you do a lot more workout or exercise tracking with quite regular heart rate monitoring, then of course, it'll obviously chew through battery quite a lot quicker. And now I'd probably estimate with an always-on display with a bit of sleep tracking on the side, it'll get through maybe 1 week to 2 weeks of longevity at best. But again, when you compare it to watches like the Apple Watch, which on the whole is still a daily charging device, a lot of people won't have the same faith doing activities like regular sleep tracking compared to doing that on a device like the GTR, which will be absolutely fine. I mean, one of the biggest complaints about smartwatches in general is how bad battery life is and the fact that you have to charge it every single day. It's why so many people end up going back to using just a normal watch. Now, with the Amazfit GTR, because it lasts so much longer, even though it doesn't have an app store, for the most basic smartwatch functions, it ends up being way more useful than other smartwatches. It still tracks sleep, it still tracks fitness, it shows you notifications, it tells the time, it looks good doing so, and realistically not need to charge it for 3 weeks at a time. Plus, depending on where you look, it only costs between 190 to 239 Australian dollars or 140 US dollars. Those are a lot of positives for only a couple of negatives. Again, it's not for people who need or want an app store or third-party apps. For the general user who only really needs a good-looking, reliable, basic smartwatch that can do all the basic stuff and last a long time doing so, the GTR is a pretty decent one and I'd recommend it for most people. It's also a great option for parents buying for older kids who'd like a smartwatch without the bigger outlay of cash for an older Apple Watch. Plus, it lasts longer, so they're less likely to forget it as well. As always, links will be in the description below. So yeah, 47mm GTR from Amazfit. Massive tick in my eyes. But what do you think? Is this something that you'd consider buying or using? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, give us a like, subscribe for more, and ding the bell icon so you don't miss out. Stay safe, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.